Alright, so it's time to dig into another round of Nintendo Switch eShop deals, and this one, any price goes. If you're after the budget picks, check out the under $10 edition from Thursday. I've linked that in the pinned comment below. As always, these deals today available across the US, Canada, UK, EU, and Australia. Now, quick heads up then before we do start. We are really close to hitting 70,000 subscribers, so if you do enjoy these videos, the general content, and you want to help a smaller channel out, a like and a subscription genuinely makes a huge difference. Finally then, the giveaway. We've got 2 winners to announce today, each getting a $10 eShop gift card. We've also then got 2 more to give away this week. Just drop a comment down below to enter, and I'll announce those winners in next Saturday's video. The first game of the week then, Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince. It's 40% off right now, matching its previous low price, and this is an underrated gem that deserved better at launch. Now, most of the criticism came down to Switch performance, and I get it. And while still it's not flawless, things have improved quite a bit. I will actually be testing this on Switch 2 as well this week, so keep an eye out for that video. But even as it stands on Switch 1, I'm a fan. Now, you play as a character cursed and unable to harm monsters directly, and that sets up the game's hook, recruiting and fusing monsters into stronger allies across shifting seasonal biomes. It's a full monster collecting RPG, but with synthesis at its heart. Basically blend 2 creatures to create something more powerful and keep climbing. Now, the campaign is long, it's full of charm and surprisingly deep, and while it didn't make a huge splash, or at least I wouldn't say it did, I think it is well worth experiencing at this price. PowerWash Simulator then is 50% off. That is a brand new low price. I genuinely didn't think this one was for me, but I got hooked fast. There's something just weirdly hypnotic about scrubbing down different locations, vehicles until they basically shine, and since launch, the game's been packed with paid crossovers. Think Warhammer, SpongeBob, Wallace and Gromit. My only warning, if you're prone to motion sickness, the constant camera panning might hit you hard. Now, I don't usually have an issue, and this one made me queasy. Now, luckily, there's a camera lock option that helps a lot. You can learn more about that in my review in the pinned comments. Beyond that, though, it's a fully fledged sim. You take jobs, upgrade your gear, and build out a business in a stress-free, no-fail structure. You can even co-op online with friends, and yeah, it's relaxing, it's satisfying, and at this price, I think worth it. RWBY Arrowfell is 65% off, matching its lowest price, and while I wouldn't call it essential, I did have some fun with it. I gave it a 6 out of 10 transparently, my reviews below. But yeah, I think this one, it's kind of like a Metroidvania light. It's leaning more into action and light, I guess, puzzle solving than deep exploration. But when the combat here clicks, there's definitely something here. The real draw is the team-based mechanics. You can instantly switch between all 4 leads, each with their own weapons, powers, and abilities. And the presentation, I actually quite liked it. It also has things like full voice acting, new cutscenes from the show's team, and even a soundtrack that actually fits the energy, in my opinion, perfectly. Now, it is again far from flawless, but if you're already a fan of the RWBY universe, this is one of those at the right price pickups, and I think at 65% off here, this might be that moment. Shadows over Loathing is 35% off, a new low price, and I wanted to call this one out specifically because I think it got overlooked. Its shadow dropped during a Nintendo Direct, which sounds exciting, but when everything drops at once and coverage is limited, honestly, it can backfire, and I actually think in this case, the game deserved better. Now it's the follow-up to West of Loathing, and if you like the game's weirdness, the tone, this one basically takes that and dials it up to 11. It's a black and white adventure RPG set in the Prohibition era, full of cursed artifacts, mobsters, stick figure mayhem, and just some genuinely brilliant writing. Basically, the concept is you're trying to find your missing uncle, but things here escalate fast. Talking frogs, tentacled horrors, time travel side quests, it's got it all. It even lets you play as classes like Cheese Wizard or Jazz Agent, and the combat, totally optional. But yeah, this one, thousands of jokes, dozens of puzzles, and the kind of dry sense of humor that, yeah, for me, it really works. It's not trying its hardest to be funny, but it just is. Jack Move is 75% off right now. That is a new low price. I'd absolutely call this one a hidden gem. It's a short form cyberpunk RPG. It wraps up in around 7 hours, and honestly, I loved that about it. It's just tight, stylish, doesn't waste your time. Now, I reviewed it when it launched, that video's linked below, and while it's not massive in scope, What's here? Super polished. The real hook though is its one character combat system. You play as Noah, a hacker in a neon-drenched city, and instead of building a traditional party, you customize her cyber deck mid-fight. You're swapping between offense, defense, and support. Basically different loadouts dependent on what you need. The combat is pretty flashy, but it's also quite strategic once you start experimenting with these different options. I love the pixel art then, soundtrack is awesome, and the whole thing has this confident, self-contained feel. So if you want a focused, fast-paced RPG with a very cool aesthetic and I guess a fresh take on turn-based battles, I think this one is worth a look. Octopath Traveler 1 and 2 are both on sale right now, 60% off, matching the lowest ever price for the first game. That is a brand new low for the sequel, and honestly, both incredible. These are turn-based RPGs that blend old school structure with modern style, but basically the concept is you choose from 8 characters, each with their own personal story, and you travel a massive fantasy world that slowly weaves their paths together. The strategy, exploration, some of the best battle music in the genre. They're also the games that really popularized Square Enix now iconic HD 2D look. You know, that mix of pixel art with depth of field, lighting, and layered effects that's since been used by all sorts, Triangle Strategy being one of the best examples. But yeah, this is where it started, and both games still just look incredible. So yeah, if you love classic RPGs, but you want a dash of modern in there, either one of these, fantastic pickup. Samurai Maiden is 55% off, matching its lowest price, and honestly, just look at the footage. You already know if this is your kind of game. It is pure what I would call popcorn entertainment. A flashy, over-the-top hack and slash that drops a modern-day schoolgirl into Japan and asks her to fight undead samurai alongside a squad of ninja girls. It is silly, it's fan service heavy, and it absolutely leans into that energy. But if you are in the mood for something brain-off and button-mashy with solid visuals, fun combos, and the kind of unapologetic style that doesn't show up as much as it used to, it delivers. You know, it's definitely not trying to be deep, it's just here to have fun, and in that sense, I think it works. Conscript is 35% off, matching its lowest price, and this is a proper hidden gem. Bleak, intense, genuinely effective at capturing the fear and futility of war. Now, it's set during the Battle of Verdun. It's a survival horror game in the most classic sense, so think fixed camera angles, punishing item management, and that constant dread that you might not have what you need to survive that next corner. But what sets it apart is that setting again. Muddy trenches instead of haunted mansions, rusted rifles instead of, modern warfare. It's brutal, it's atmospheric, and it really sells that feeling of being outmatched at all times. The pixel art then is gritty and effective, and the level design has that satisfying kind of interconnected feel that rewards smart exploration and planning. So yeah, if you miss the old school kind of survival horror style, but want something unique thematically, this one is a gem. Stasis Bone Totem is 40% off, a new low price, and if you're into classic point-and-click adventures with a horror twist, this one's absolutely worth the time. Just a heads up, the isometric perspective can make things a little small in handheld mode, but docked, it shines. Now you play as Mac and Charlie, a salvaging couple who stumble across an abandoned oil rig in the middle of the Pacific. What starts as a simple job quickly turns into a descent into underwater horror. Think corporate secrets, ancient mysteries, and some very grim sci-fi twists. You'll swap between characters, solve environmental puzzles, and slowly unravel a narrative that is far more personal than it first appears. It is atmospheric, it's dark, it doesn't pull its punches, but that's exactly what makes it special. So yeah, if you've maybe played the original Stasis, which actually just dropped on Switch as well, this is an excellent follow-up, and even if you're new, Bone Totem stands firmly on its own. Dave the Diver is 35% off right now, matching its lowest price, and honestly, if you've somehow skipped this one so far, now is the time. The game blew up for a reason. It's weird, it's charming, it blends two totally different genres, and it just works. Daytime, deep-sea fishing and exploration, followed by nighttime sushi restaurant management. Now here you'll be diving into the mysterious blue hole with your harpoon, gathering fish and materials while dealing with roguelike dangers and oxygen limits, aggressive sea creatures, and an environment that changes daily. Then you resurface to prep sushi, upgrade gear, and run your restaurant, slowly expanding both your business but also the incredibly strange story that unfolds. Now, the game itself has a great cast of weird characters, a really memorable art style that mixes pixel and 3D, and also a ton of side content from mini-games to free DLC like a crossover with Dredge, Godzilla, even a paid one as well, Yakuza. Now, a sequel's almost inevitable, and I cannot wait for it. Infinity Strash Dragon Quest The Adventure of Dai is one of those games that landed with, well, a complete FUD at launch. People were expecting, I think, a sweeping action RPG with massive scale and deep mechanics, and what they got was something closer to an anime arena brawler with a few RPG elements layered on top. But honestly, if you go in with those right expectations, I think there's something to like here. Now, the game itself is based on the Adventure of Dai anime, and it does a good job letting you relive key battles with flashy visuals and a few interesting twists, especially the Bond memory system, which lets you equip scenes from the manga to power up your characters. But then there's also the Temple of Recollection, a kind of roguelike dungeon with randomized rooms and enemy setups that add more variety and, in my opinion, replay value. So yeah, look, the one issue I will say here is it's not a complete adaptation. The story cuts off before finishing the full arc, and with the lukewarm reception, unfortunately, a sequel is, I'd say, unlikely. But for fans of the series or anyone looking for a slightly experimental spin on the anime brawler and Dragon Quest, I don't think it's the disaster that many made it out to be. Blasphemous 2 is 50% off, matching its lowest price yet, and for my money, this is one of the best action platformers on the eShop. It takes everything the original did well, the brutal world, the tight combos, the oppressive atmosphere, and just makes it better, especially the platforming. That was a weak spot in the first game, but here it feels responsive, refined, and genuinely satisfying. Now here, you're once again then dropped into a punishing labyrinth of gothic horror, playing as the penitent one. You're armed, however, with new weapons and much more flexible skill options. The story itself then picks up right after the events of the first game, as the Penitent One is once again resurrected in a new cursed land. You're drawn back into a cycle of defying suffering to stop the birth of a new miracle. The boss design here, though, incredible. Some of the best fights I've played over the last few years. The only real misstep is the shift in cutscene art. They moved away from the painterly pixel style to something more anime-inspired, and while it's no question well done, it just doesn't match the tone quite as seamlessly. So yeah, look, the gameplay, really good. Music, really good. Challenging as well. Just that kind of minor nitpick. But yeah, if you like the first game, you gotta play this one. Dreamscaper is 80% off, matching its lowest price, and this really is one of those hidden gems that deserves more attention. It's a roguelike, sure, but one with a deeply personal, emotional hook, which I think makes it stand out. You'll be playing as Cassidy, navigating the surreal layers of her subconscious in dreamlike dungeons at night. But then, the daytime, you'll be living out her real-world life, strengthening her relationships and unlocking permanent upgrades. The loop is fantastic, and as they put it on the eShop actually, dream, die, wake, repeat. But it never feels repetitive, even though it is that typical loop. And that's thanks to the combat system and just the runs. They change so much with each night coming. You'll be fighting though through manifestations of fear, anxiety, loss, and somehow it still plays like an extremely stylish action brawler. There's dodging, parrying, time-bending powers, even elemental combos. And yeah, the weapons, really good too, all feel different. You can literally take a yo-yo into battle and win. So yeah, if you want a roguelike with heart, this one really good. Visually just moody, mechanically deep, and actually packed with emotional beats. Our two winners of the week then, for the two $10 eShop gift cards, are on screen right now. Congrats on the win both. Email me for the codes, and everyone else, drop a comment down below for your chance in next Saturday's video. Freedom Wars Remastered Contribution Edition is 40% off, and while the base game version has been discounted before, this deluxe edition hasn't, and it's only about 90p more than the standard game's lowest ever price, so if you're at all interested, you probably won't mind. The bonuses, the extras, it's a few weapons and modules, not exactly game changers, let's face it, but they're bundled in if you do care. As for the game itself, though, that's what we're all here for. I was always curious about this one on Vita, never got around to it, so having it on Switch was a real win. Love the core loop here, really fast and flashy, and yeah, the concept is you're a sinner, sentenced to 1,000,000 years in prison for the crime of existing, and your only way out is by basically completing dangerous combat missions to save time off your sentence. The remaster then improves visuals, the crafting, the difficulty options, and what it still feels like a handheld game in places, honestly. There's something really compelling about its high-speed mission-based structure, so it's a cult favourite, and it's one I've been glad to finally play. And that is it for the week's eShop sales picks. Some big names, a few hidden gems, and Square Enix clearly just going for it right now. If you do want more last Saturday's deals video, all of those are still live, so I'll link that video down below. And if you are grabbing anything, let me know in the comments. Then, if you have made it this far, thank you for watching. Plenty of content coming up in this next week, so do watch out for that. And if you haven't already, subscribe if you can. It helps out a huge amount. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers all.